The application problem says Mr. Hopkins has a 1 meter wire he is using to make clocks. Each fourth meter is marked off and divided into 5 smaller equal lengths. If Mr. Hopkins bends the wire at 3/4 meter, what fraction of the smaller marks is that? Would you want to close the door for me, please? Okay, now I know. This is confusing, isn't it?
Yep.
So let's start with the tape diagram because that's a really good way to start organizing our information. So he has a 1 meter wire that he is using to make clocks. So let's make it probably about that long, okay? Each fourth meter, so that tells us right there, it's divided into 4 equal parts. How do I know that? Right, there's my denominator. So that tells me that I've got 4 equal pieces in this wire. And what's the total length of the wire?
1 meter.
1 meter, okay? All right, so get that on there. Make your tape diagram pretty long because you're going to need the room, okay? And now it says each fourth meter is marked off and divided into 5 smaller equal units. So inside of each of these, and I think I'm going to change my color just so you can see the visual, okay? I'm not okay with that kind of behavior. Is marked off and divided into 5 smaller units. So inside of each 1/4 meter, we have 5 parts or equal parts. If Mr. Hopkins bends the wire at 3/4 meter, what fraction of the smaller marks is that?
15.
Okay, let's see. So there's 3/4 meter.
Who is that?
So let's see. First of all, I need a denominator for the total number of small parts. 5.
15.
Okay. And someone said at 3/4 meter, which is 1, 2, 3 of these boxes, right? It will be 15. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the answer is 15/20. Those are equivalent, by the way, because we did the same thing to the top that we did to the bottom. Now let's try it another way. Can you think of another way to show this? Grant?
A number line.
A number line. I like it.
Number.
Good old number line. So make it pretty long.
I wish our pencils were like yours.
I know it. And let's start with the end points. What are they?
0 and 1.
0 and 1. And what's the denominator?
20.
No.
4.
4. We've got 2 denominators, so I should say, what's the first denominator? 4. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and label those. And then I'm going to just put an arrow to 3/4 meters. What's the next thing I need to do, boys and girls? Nope. I haven't marked off my little pieces. So what do I need to do? Tick marks between each fourth. How many? 4 tick marks. You guys, didn't we divide these into 5 smaller units?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we have to do on the number line. Same thing, just a different way of showing it. Which way do you like better?
I don't know. Number line.
You're not sure? Okay.
I didn't number line because it's less writing.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It's kind of quicker.
Well, and we're used to showing fractions on a number line, aren't we? We don't use a tape diagram very often to show fractions.
I don't get that. I don't get
Okay, so if I have 3/4, and let's just say I didn't know the answer, I would count by 5s, right? 5, 10, 15, 20. And then 5, 10, 15. So that's 2 ways to solve the same problem. It doesn't seem too hard now that we've done it.
No, look at the lesson.
Right. So let's go ahead. This is a little bit like our lesson. We're going to be using the number line quite a bit. Okay?
Okay.
So here's the first one. You're welcome for the fractions. Notice they're correct.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now on mine, and you don't have to write this, you can if you want, but I showed it in unit form. Do you see that? And the reason I did that is because I want you to just add this in your head. 1/3 plus 1/3 equals 2/3.
Ours doesn't have that.
I know, because I was tired last night. So I'll put it on for next year, okay?
What's on there? So we divided it by.
So the first thing I want to do is talk about the total, okay? Go ahead and write the total. And I think the reason we're showing unit form is so you can see that the denominator never changes. All right? So now I'm going to look at my total. Is that more or less than 1 whole? Put the highlighter down, Grant. Less. So I'm going to make my end points 0 and 1. Now don't start labeling all your fractions because you're not going to have to. You'll just be wasting your time. So what's the denominator?
3.
3. So 3 equal parts means how many tick marks? 2. Okay. And the only thing I have to show is 1/3 plus 1/3. So here's how I show it. 1/3, like the arrow and the bunny hop, plus 1/3, okay? And the answer is 2/3. That's all you have to do. Think you can handle it?
Yeah.
We'll make it a little harder here in a minute.
Oh.
But we're starting out pretty easy, aren't we? Okay. So let's go down and show the next one. I'm going to make it a little higher for you so you can see it.
So on this one we have to do the bunny hop.
Yes, this is the lesson. Yeah. You know, yesterday I said that those bunny hops I'm doing are just a visual for you to see your spaces or your parts. Today we're doing it, but only on what we're adding. So let's start by getting the answer. 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. So you can see the denominator never changes. Go ahead and write the total. Now, is my total more or less than 1 whole? Less. So what's the denominator? Because we've got to get that figured out first. 4. So 4 equal parts means how many tick marks? 3. Don't label the fractions. Okay, you're a step ahead of me, aren't you? Show 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. And then you write the answer at the bottom. Okay? Fist to 5, how are we doing? Got this figured out, don't we? Okay? Now, when we start subtracting, oh my goodness. But we're not going to do that today, thank goodness. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Okay, so this one, let's get a total first. Okay, what's 3 plus 3 plus 1?
7.
So 7/8. Is that more or less than 1 whole? Less. So we're still 0 and 1. What's my denominator?
8.
So 7 tick marks. But remember, to make 8, it's so simple. You divide it in half. Then you divide each of those in half. And then you divide the fourths in half. And you'll get 8s. Okay, so now that I have that much done, I'm going to start adding. So I've got to remember that my first one is 0. In fact, last year I had the kids mark this so they didn't accidentally count it as 1. Okay? So that's a pretty good strategy. So if I'm going to count 3, watch me. 1, 2, 3. And that's 3/8. Okay, and then I'm going to do it again. Watch me. 1, 2, 3. That's 3/8. And then 1, 1/8. And your answer is 7/8. Okay, now I'm going to kick this one up a notch. On your problem set, it says, rewrite as a multiplication sentence. Well, part of this we can multiply. How do I know that? Because I see repeated addition. So how can I rewrite this? And only part of it's going to be a multiplication sentence.
3 8 times.
I'm going to say 2 copies of. Okay? 3/8. But very good. And then what are we going to do? Plus 1/8. Okay, so go ahead and write that down because we're going to be doing that here possibly today or Monday. Okay, let's do the next problem.
Monday.
Did you write it down?
Yeah.
2 copies of 3/8 is the same as repeated addition. So this is a review of 3rd grade only with fractions. Okay, let's keep going. The next problem. Oh, there we are with multiplication. Okay. So this says 6 halves equals 3 halves times 2 halves, or 3 times 2 halves. And I want you to say 3 copies of, or 3 groups of in your mind, okay? All right, so let's get the answer. What's 3 times 2?
6.
So the answer is, oh, we already knew it. Gosh, I'm writing in
1.
6 halves.
Oh, that's more than 1.
It is. And when I write 6 halves, look at it. Can't I say that as a division problem? 6 divided by 2. What's the answer? So my endpoints are
1.
0 and 3. Okay, and I told you this is going to go fast. Okay, so now I've got to mark my whole numbers first. 1 and 2. Now what's the denominator?
2.
Right, halves. Okay, so 1 tick mark between each whole number would show halves. Okay, so we'll start with going to 2 halves. Anybody know where 2 halves is?
Yeah, 2.
At the 1. Very good. So 2/2 plus 2/2 plus 2/2 equals what? 6/2. And that's how you write it. See, it's kind of fun, isn't it? Okay, let's go to the next step here.
Like, almost time to go. No, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, let's see if we can get this one.
Yeah, right.
So 5/5 plus 3/5 equals 8/5. So 8/5, is that more or less than 1 whole? More. Is it 2? Is it 2 whole?
No.
No. What would that be?
10.
10. So we're going to do 0 and 2 because we have to go past 1. And this will be the last problem we do today.
Can we take the other one home to do?
No. Okay, so now that we have that much done, what's the denominator?
5.
So that's how many tick marks? Always one less. 4, right? Okay, so where do I stop for 5/5?
The 1.
At the 1. And then how many more?
3.
So watch me count it. 1, 2, 3. That's 3/5. And the answer is 8/5.